This is Campus Currency, and welcome back to part 2 in our series on completing the FAFSA application. In this video, we're completing the student demographics section. So when you get into the application, you can see a menu along the top that will progress as you go through the application and highlight each section. There will also be a banner that lists what information they're requesting. So this is saying student information now, but as it gets over to the parent information, if you are required to provide that, it will ask for parent information. Keep in mind that the FAFSA belongs to you, the student, so wherever they're saying you or yours, they're referring to you, the student, and not the parent. So you're going to fill out your social security number if it's not already listed in there from your FSA ID, your first, middle initial, and last name and date of birth, keeping in mind that you want to make sure it matches exactly what's on your Social Security card, because this application does get checked against the Social Security Administration's database, and if it doesn't match exactly what's on your Social Security card, it will cause delays in your processing. The next set of questions is going to ask for your email address, and that's because nowadays most colleges are communicating with students and parents via email. That's maybe how you receive your financial aid award letter. It's also how you may receive notification of missing documents that you need to submit, and also other information that the college financial aid office will want you to know. And same goes for the telephone number. You should provide that so that if they need to call you for any purposes related to financial aid, they'll have that information on file. Then they're going to ask for your mailing address, city, state, and zip code. You want to make sure you're putting in yours or your parents' address. There are some situations where we see students that are at private schools or boarding schools in other states. They list the address of the school and not their parents' address. This can cause some problems maybe with or delay the processing of any state financial aid that the student may qualify for through their state of residence, not the school residence where they're attending school. Then they're going to ask you if you've lived in your state of residence for more than 5 years. If not, they're going to ask what your state of legal residence is, and if you've lived there for more than 5 years. If not, when you became a legal resident of that state. And this is because they're checking eligibility for potential state grants, scholarships, loans, or work-study programs that are available through the state where you and your parents live. Then they'll ask if you're a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. If you're an eligible non-citizen, you typically have an alien registration number, and this is typically students or parents that have the permanent resident card or the I-551 or I-551C. These are also known as the green card. But there are a lot of other statuses that also exist for eligible non-citizens, and I'll provide this link at the end of the video as well so that you can click to it. If you answered no, I am not a citizen or eligible non-citizen, then you're not going to qualify for any federal financial aid, including grants, work study, or loans. However, you will want to check with your college financial aid office. The state that you live in or the college itself may have some funding available to non-citizens, and this would include students that might be undocumented students. The next question that they're going to ask is what your high school completion status will be when you begin the 21-22 school year. So hopefully you either have a high school diploma, GED, or high school equivalent, or have a homeschooled certificate. If you answer none of the above, you'll want to contact the college itself. They may guide you to resources on how to obtain a GED, or possibly the Ability to Benefit test, the ATB. Or they may even suggest that you take a couple classes and pay on your own before they decide whether or not they will provide financial aid. Chances are this will be institutional aid, though, for the most part. Then the next question asks what college degree or certificate will you be working on when you begin the school year. So it could be a bachelor's degree, second bachelor's. Associate's degree in occupational or technical program refers to usually a community college where you're taking, for instance, a nursing program or a mechanics program or something where you will begin your working career immediately after completion, versus an associate's degree in general education or transfer program where, for instance, you might enroll in a liberal arts program with the intent of transferring on to a 4-year school afterwards. There's also the option for certificate or diploma for a program of less than 2 years or at least 2 years. There's teacher credential programs, which are non-degree programs. And then if you are attending college as in a master's or a professional degree program, such as a Ph.D. or law school or dental school or medical school. And then the last one is other undecided. I don't suggest selecting this option even if you're not sure what you want to study, only because financial aid requires that you be enrolled in a degree or certificate program. So even if you're not sure, you should answer one of the selections above, either first bachelor's, associate's, or certificate degree. Will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin the 21-22 school year? You want to make sure you're answering no to this. A lot of times we do catch students who accidentally answer yes. That makes them ineligible for the federal Pell Grant. And if you do qualify, you want to make sure that you've answered this correctly. And then what will your college grade level be when you begin the 2021-22 school year? It could be never attended college before if you're a traditional student right out of high school, or even if you did take some college courses while you were attending high school, but you are still in your first year, considered a first year college student because you have, we'll say, less than 30 credits earned. There's second year sophomore, third year junior, fourth year senior, fifth year other undergrad, and graduate professional programs, first or continuing. And the reason these are important is because the different levels of grade that you're at will determine your eligibility for various loan programs, so you want to make sure you're accurate with that. And then they'll ask if you're interested in being considered for work study. So work study is working part-time on campus through one of the departments at the college campus, or they have programs affiliated with locations off campus, but it's all arranged through the college. Basically, you're working part-time and receiving a paycheck. It's very flexible. They work around your class schedule, and it's usually no more than 10 to 15 hours a week. If you're even thinking of possibly doing work study, you want to answer yes, and that's because the federal government provides very limited funding for work study to the colleges, and it is very competitive among students. And so if you answer no or you don't know, chances are the funding might not be available if you do change your mind later in the academic year. The next question is going to ask whether you're a male or female, and they do apply this rule to say anybody that was assigned sex of male at birth has to answer male. And this was because we have to register with the Federal Selective Service. So the Selective Service, which is a lot of people know as the draft, was the ability for the federal government to call up students or young men in a wartime scenario. The draft has not been used since the early 1970s, and it's unlikely that it would be used again, but it is a requirement for financial aid that males be registered with Selective Service. There's a couple options on how to do that. So you can either register online at sss.gov/register, or you can go down to your local U.S. Post Office and sign up there, or you can also do it through the FAFSA application here itself, just by answering yes. Now this is only for males between the ages of 18 to 25 years old. So if you're a college student starting college and you're maybe 16 or 17, just answer yes that you want to have FAFSA register with you with Selective Service. You will qualify for financial aid because you're not required at that time because you're not of age, but you will be qualified, so that doesn't matter. Also, if you're over the age of 25, now this may be a situation where you are an immigrant that's emigrated to the United States and you were over the age of 25 when you first came to the U.S., you're not required to complete the selective service registration either. Now, there might be other scenarios where you can appeal to the financial aid office to see if you can have this requirement waived. So one example might be if you were incarcerated between the ages of 18 to 25 and you did not have the ability to register for selective service, you'll want to touch base with the financial aid office and ask them what your options are. Then they'll ask for your student driver's license. This is completely optional. Then they're going to ask if you are a foster youth at any time or in the foster care system. And the reason they're asking for this question is a lot of states or even the colleges themselves might have some foster grant programs that are available to these students. However, this is different from the question that asks whether you were in foster care at any time since you turned age 13. That was part of the dependency questions, which we had a 4-part video series on dependency questions. That determines whether or not you are an independent or dependent student, so we don't want to confuse those two. If you were in foster care at any time, that's just to check eligibility for maybe some grants through the state or college, versus after age 13, if you were in foster care, is to determine whether or not you are an independent student who doesn't have to provide parental information or a dependent student who must provide the parental information. Then the next section is going to ask the highest level of school that your parent completed, parent 1. And that would be either middle school or junior high school, college or beyond, or other or unknown. And then it'll ask for the second parent as well. And this is primarily to determine maybe eligibility for first generation students. There may be grants available through the college or even your state of residence for first generation students. And that is it for this section. Hopefully this information was helpful, and if you found it useful, please like and subscribe. The next section we're coming up on is part 3, where we will go through the school section of the FAFSA application. So thank you very much for checking in with us today.